Mm. So I'm curious then, because there's like theistic idealism, like the belief in God, but there's also like naturalistic idealists. Like I was thinking of like Bernardo Kastrup, and I think there's a couple others, but it's not as common. Like, what's the difference here? Like thinking about like theistic idealism and like a naturalistic idealism. Yeah.
Well, it's very difficult because you have to think about how you're defining God,
Mm-hmm.
what it takes to count as a theist. So you might give you might think that what's known as absolute idealism, a kind of view that was popular in the late 19th and early 20th century, influenced by Hegel, um, usually has kind of the absolute with a capital A, that is the fundamental ultimate reality, is kind of godlike, and many absolute idealists like to call it God sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's for many of these absolute idealists, it wouldn't be something like a very traditional form of God. So that might be, you might call it pantheistic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pantheistic idealism or panentheistic idealism, depending on how fine you want to make your distinctions. Um, so those would be examples where they're saying there's kind of one ultimate mind that, in some sense, just is the world, right? Um, and so, do you call that theistic or not? Um, could any form of idealism be naturalistic? To me, that seems unlikely,
Mm-hmm.
but it depends again on how you're defining naturalism. So, the reason I think it seems unlikely that you could be an idealist and a naturalist is that I tend to think of naturalism as saying that kind of our whole metaphysical picture, our whole understanding of the world should be just what's given to us by science, and we shouldn't be going beyond science. And if we look at the picture that's given us by science, um, psychology is not the fundamental science. It's not the one that's on the ground floor, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a very high level, a special science, as philosophers say, that's dealing with only a tiny part of reality and not the whole of reality. So, in terms of current science, a naturalist is not very likely to be an idealist. An idealist is going to be saying, kind of, there's something deeper or more fundamental beyond or behind the science.
Mm-hmm.